our patriots. It needs our citizens. We are only as divided as we allow our government to divide us. It is not up to them. It is up to us. It is up to us to protect our children and future generations. If we do not stand together, who will stand for us? No one will stand for you. No one will fight for you. You must do this yourself. And together, we will win. We will prevail. We are going to restore the freedoms for this nation. And my brothers and sisters died here. That your grandfather died here. This is our country. We must reclaim it. We must take it back. We cannot allow ourselves to fail. I will stand alongside you. And together, we will turn the tide in the war for our freedom. Well. We are live. This is Cash Jackson, and I am joined tonight by my host, CJ Abernathy. Don't mind the wild fucking hair. It's been a wild couple weeks, especially after I got shot in the forehead with a pepper ball. Not to mention the 40 millimeter, well, whatever was loaded in that thing. It skipped off the top of my bean. Hit CJ Abernathy. And anyways, it was an interesting time in DC, to say the least. And now we got what, 25, 30,000 National Guard, not to mention the amount of police that they have there. And well, I mean, just what a cool culmination of events we've got going on. Today is, well, we're celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Some interesting things about Martin Luther King Jr. we might cover this evening as well. And, well, we got like 1.5 days till whatever's going to transpire in DC. And I'm kicked off of every platform. Yeah, you guys already know this. They've chunked me off Twitter, chunked me off Facebook. Yeah, Brian, we didn't know we were going live tonight either. Because, of course, where I live, my internet is so suspect. We sometimes can connect, sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's so awful, or sometimes we'll just go until they chop it, or I've used up whatever minimal service and data speeds that I have. Being the prominent trailer park trash that I am, I've got the cheap plan. I got to find a hat. I don't know what's going on around here. What's shaking, bacon? Jerry, what's up? Katie, thanks for joining us. I do apologize for the inconsistency of the broadcast, but whenever you're driving across the country at all hours of the freaking night, that is exactly what happens. So, man, there's just been so much stuff going on. It's hard to line it all out. We had an interesting phone call with the FBI a couple days ago, and Mr. FBI agents had sought out my executive producer's local sheriff, and then the local sheriff and the FBI agents gave us a ring, and we spoke to them for quite some time, probably longer than what we should have, and certainly more than probably what any average attorney would tell you to. They would just tell you to shut your mouth, plead the fifth, and talk to my attorney. But we didn't do that. And I don't know, maybe to our detriment. Who the hell knows? With this administration coming in, there's no telling. Thought I wasn't human. No, I'm quite human. And I assure you, when you guys watch the video and you hear me gagging and dry heaving after getting shot with pepper balls and tear gas and whatever else they used on us, DC was extremely challenging. But we've got some magnificent footage that we want everybody to see. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of revealing things are going to come out of the footage. Well, Katie, typically what the FBI wants to know, well, they didn't tell me specifically what they wanted out of the footage, but I do know that they've contacted other people that, they found out were there at the event, and those who had broadcast. One of the scary things is how rapidly after that, I want y'all to think about this, how rapidly they were able to track people down and find out where they were at and then request their video. And with the upcoming administration, it might go from a request to a, I don't know, what do you call those things? No-knock raid warrant. I mean, are they going to use a Patriot Act on us? What are they going to do? We don't entirely know. What I do know is that you're getting ready to have a puppet government instituted into this country, and it's not going to bode well for the rest of this nation. Look, what's transpiring right now is something that's been in the making for far longer than I think any of us realize. This is not a last 4 years Democrats get pissed off at Donald Trump scenario. This is something that has been being planned, a meticulous plan that's being executed, and we are watching that plan be executed in real time. Some of the most common complaints that I'm hearing about this, yeah, put John on there. That's fine. Y'all did a no-knock raid on the Capitol. No, I think that they knocked. I heard them. They knocked quite loudly, as a matter of fact. And they stomped their feet in unison in the bleachers, and they sang the national anthem, and they prayed. They did some wonderful things out there that the mainstream media isn't talking about, which is why I'm here. And people like me, other independent media sources. We are not the mainstream media, and it's one reason why I went. And unfortunately, many of you out there attacked me, and you're like, you're this huge Trumpophile, and now, like, you're a racist, and, you just abandoned ship, right? And it really shows your loyalty and your character and your depth of understanding of the person that you said that you were supporting. And really what it illustrates is that at the earliest sign of somebody disagreeing with your viewpoint, you jump fucking ship. And it just means to me that for some of you and some that are watching here tonight, you know who you are. And this is just an unfortunate reality of dealing with human beings. I don't hold it against many of you. I think that many of you are just, unfortunately, those that really troll what I do, or those that abandon ship so rapidly and turn on you so rapidly. Again, I think it's just a reflection of your shallow character and principles and ability to have an adult conversation and to ask thought-provoking questions and have sincere conversations. Instead, you prefer to project your beliefs and your perspectives onto other people, and when their beliefs don't align with your own, then you discard them like trash. And again, that shows more of who you are as a person. So, if it wasn't for the independent media, Jerry, I thank you so much for bringing that up. If it wasn't for the independent media, think about how scary this is for a moment. If we were still relying upon just mainstream media and the propaganda that they push, all of them, they're pushing crazy propaganda. And of course, there's also plenty of even podcasters, independent media people that do the same thing. That they don't have an interest in finding common ground, and that's one of the worst parts that we've experienced in this country is we've allowed those on the far left and the far right to absorb all of the media attention. And it's not even that they're there to absorb it so much as it is that mainstream media is in bed with the rest of them. Mainstream media is in bed with our politicians and corporations and these fringe political groups and those that have ulterior motives in what they're seeking to do. Right? They profess one thing and really they're seeking to accomplish something else. People like myself, there's quite a few of us out there, right? We promote individual liberty, individual responsibility. We're definitely advocates of a smaller government. And it's funny where, just going to the rally out there, I've had friends of mine tell me that I was a terrorist. My friends, right? And this is where your true friends come out, okay? And they really begin to show their true colors towards you. That, you're even these people begin to tell you that you're a terrorist and you're doing something wrong and you shouldn't be there. Why the fuck shouldn't I be there? I'm a fucking American and I served this country for 20 years. So I would love for any person, especially somebody who never served in the fucking military in the United States, to tell me where I should or should not be or what I should or should not be doing. It's frustrating. Is it fine for CNN to go? Is it okay for fucking Bloomberg to be there? Did any of you who criticized me and my team for being in DC, did any of you heap the same criticism upon the left stream media, right, that you so staunchly support? No, you didn't. Nope. They're perfectly fine. They can be there, right? Whatever. They just, and for what? What do you concoct in your mind to give them a pass, and then independent media like me and the wonderful team of individuals that have been assisting me in this endeavor? This is no easy fucking task. I'll let you know that, number one. Okay. But secondly, we all know that the mainstream media, all of it, if you're on the left, you fucking hate Fox News. If you're on the right, well, you hate CNN, ABC, NBC, all the rest of them. Right? That's the general consensus here. We all hate those media, the mainstream media. So that means we're in a consensus together. Okay, so if we're in a consensus about that mainstream media isn't operating in the best interest of the American people, they're operating, in fact, in the best interest of mainstream media and their conglomerates, their corporations. You want people there to tell the truth. You want people there to catch to do interviews, to capture video and photos. And it was just like me being in Standing Rock, right? My friend Ken Forcloud, thanks for joining us tonight, Ken. I appreciate you, brother. Being out in Standing Rock. What better way to understand what's happening in your country than to be there and to be present? Not everybody could do it, but I could. So if I can, why don't I? And furthermore, why do you feel as though you can decide for me and my team where we should or should not be spending our time reporting? We're going to go where we can, when we can, however we can. We're independent media. We're not fucking mainstream media. And if you want to see video footage, and if you want to see exactly what's happening, then support them. There's more out there that are doing exactly what we're doing. Just being an independent journalist. They might not do it in the same style. They might not go to the same places. They might not have the same, beliefs that we do as an organization. And that's okay. That's what the free market's all about. It allows you, the individual, to get out there and find and partake in media that you enjoy, right? That you feel is beneficial to you and your family. So, like having people like Ken Forcloud, Ken Forcloud spent a significant amount of time out in Standing Rock. And I know the good old FBI out there, they love me, man. The FBI, the NSA, the CIA, these guys love me, right? I'm a bit of a problem child for them, to the degree that I had a top secret clearance. I've had a TSSCI clearance, and I came out of the military, and right out of the military, 20 years, I went right into what most would label activism. And to me, it wasn't activism. It was just continuing to defend the Constitution against what clearly to me is domestic enemies. And they're everywhere in government. And this is what I'm really, really having a hard time with the American people, is that we can't seem to figure out together collectively amongst ourselves, the mature adults that can just have a conversation. Could we collectively agree that the bad kid on the block is a government? Right? I think that most Americans out there, I do believe this. I believe most Americans are pretty decent people. They've got a whole host of backgrounds, and many come from screwed up home lives, and they've learned some very difficult life lessons. And it's given them the ability to sit down and hear a multitude of perspectives and consider those. And then with a discerning attitude, come to an intelligent conclusion based upon all of the information that they have available to them. So we're coming for a for a rough time. Once Joe Biden, Kamala Harris go into office, if that transpires on the 20th and there is a peaceful transition, even if no shots fired, it's not peaceful, folks. There's nothing peaceful about what's transpiring right now. I don't think that the majority of America, look, I don't honestly believe even the left thinks that Joe Biden won. They're just happy that Donald Trump won, and they're willing to give Joe Biden a pass to get rid of Donald Trump. Oh, okay, fine. If that's what you're going to do, right, then number one, it means that you're willing to sacrifice those types of principles and morals in order to, in your eyes, get rid of somebody that, frankly, I don't believe is the individual that he's been made out to be. I'm not over here touting Trump, right? I've never have. But people are quick to jump and go, oh, Cash is a huge Trump supporter. I've even got an autographed Trump thing back here. Yeah, I do. I keep that autographed Trump thing back there so that he can see it and remember that he still owes me a promise. All right. When the man shook my hand and he gave me his word told me to send him my case. And I did, to him and to Mike Pence twice, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And I'm going to hold him just as accountable as I would Obama or Bush or Reagan or Carter or Nixon or anybody else. You know, there's plenty of us that are in the freaking middle. Now, it's not that we want to be in the middle. Okay. It's just, that's where we find ourselves in these discussions. We go down one topic and we have the left attack us. We shift over to another topic, we have the right attack us. And for many of us, it's a badge of honor. It's kind of a trial by fire, that once you begin to really express how you feel to people, you really begin to understand that that whole rugged individualism that Americans are known for has been dead and gone for some time. Because if you're not part of their collective ideology and group, you're cast aside like trash. You don't matter. They're going to assign whatever ad hominem labels and attacks you that they want to dehumanize you. That way it's far easier for them. It's more palatable for them to be cruel to you and your family. They don't give a shit about you. And that's exactly how communist and fascists work, folks. Believe it or not, there's a lot of similarities between the two radical ideologies of the far left and the far right. The far left and the far right aren't across some linear line like what we typically think of when we go far left and far right. I look at it more like a clock, and that you've got one of them at 11:59 and the other one at 12:01. And they're not far apart from one another. They're not far apart from one another in the worst of their nature, right? Because in the worst of both of those radical ideologies, far left and far right, they both possess the capabilities and willingness to silence those of us who have a differing viewpoint. They are all too willing to take over media, to silence voices, much like what we've seen with kicking people off of Twitter and Facebook and all of these other platforms. I mean, I'm looking at my screen right now. I can't broadcast to the Veteran Liberty Network on Facebook, cannot broadcast to my Restoring Freedom page on Facebook. I cannot broadcast to my public Facebook page on Facebook. And for what? Right? I violated community standards. Well, more than likely, some, typically what it comes down to is some far left individual or individuals. It's a part of that cancel culture. Shut them up. They've got differing viewpoints that make sense. And we can have none of that rationale around here. We have to keep this their own personal echo chamber, right? These people are, that's what they have to surround themselves with, an echo chamber. It's not hate speech to challenge your ideas. Okay. Frankly, you're intellectually inept to defend your viewpoints without emotional hyperbole and ad hominem attacks. And that's what's coming, is years and years and years and more of this shit in the next 4 years for the rest of us that are unfortunately caught up in the middle. I don't know. Well, what do we do? Right? We've been saying it. Okay. I didn't really get into politics till 2016. And even though I'll say I was a registered Republican at one time. But I don't even know, honestly, that I was a registered Republican. I moved around so much. I voted so infrequently or not at all because of deployments and being gone. And just, my 20 years in the military, I had no interest really in what was happening in politics. And like many veterans, they believe that they're doing their part just by putting on the uniform. And that is a terrible mindset to have. And I had that for a very long time, that I put on the uniform. I'm doing my part. Okay. America and those who are not in the military need to step up and do their part and make sure. That was my belief system. And really, it was just me being lazy and not wanting to acknowledge my own personal responsibility, that even while in the military, I had a responsibility to know what was going on in my country, to a much deeper understanding than what I did. But I didn't. And I've got 1,000,001 excuses like the rest of you. I've got family, job, stress, pick something, right? Life. It's fucking life. And our lives are passing by. And with each day, we're allowing more of our rights to be eroded and stripped. People that are really pushing this Biden-Harris administration have no idea really what they're in for. They will end up, many of them killing their own economies, killing even more so than what it is right now, right? They're going to kill a lot more industry in this country, or private industry, simply because that they love a much larger style of government and regulations. They love it. They get off on it. And the more of that shit that they pass, the more that it dissipates the resources of business owners or prospective business owners, and they make it harder on the country. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires with all of these troops. It's unprecedented that we've got the circumstances that we do, but I think that all of us should be concerned enough with the evidence that's been produced. And make no mistake about it, there is plenty of video evidence, and we could pull some up probably here on the show tonight, of the tampering, ballots being refed back into machines, ballots being pulled out from underneath tables, the Dominion machines being compromised. I mean, it just goes, the list goes on and on and on. So this guy's not a legitimate president. He's a puppet, right? I don't give a shit how much the left wants to strong arm the entire scenario. And it's funny to see. It's so funny to see how quickly now Democrats rush to defend the police. There was no talk of defunding the police then, were there? Right? January 6th, did you hear Democrats screaming about, there at the Capitol? Did you hear all those congressmen and women that were so brave in defunding the police, the Tammy Duckworths and the Dick Durbins of the world? Were they up there screaming on the steps for the police to leave them alone, that they could handle it? Why didn't they bring in their fucking social workers, right? Why didn't they march in all of these? Why don't we have the National Guard there right now? Why don't we have an entire army of psychiatrists and psychologists and mental health professionals and on and on and on? Where are all these people at? Okay. You wanted to get rid of the cops. You wanted to shit can the cops. And I'm right there with you. Let's go ahead. Let's shit can all the cops. Police officers, I love you. My brothers, my sisters that are out there that are serving in law enforcement. Go grab you another career where people don't treat you like shit. Okay. Those of you who are close to retirement, your new guys there, maybe help see them out the door. You're going to get your ass handed to you. The administration that's coming down the line, that's all that you're going to be. And it's what you have been, and you know it. You have been the political punching bag. You have been the political punching bag for these politicians and the left. Now, I fall into the demographic of people who just judge bad cops for being bad cops and good cops for being good cops, or the individual choices and decisions they make while on and off duty. And what's that called? Common sense. Just a common sense, rational approach to dealing with people. That sometimes you've got really good people that make really dumb choices. Is that a summary of the entire person? No. But the way we're employing our police officers in this country, you guys shouldn't be surprised anymore, for the criticism that you get, because you know how stupid a lot of the laws are that they make you enforce. You know how stupid they are. And what do? I'm just doing my job. Okay, I'm being a little harsh right now. Yes, you are doing your job. Yes, I understand. And this is what a lot of people need to understand. Those police officers out there in DC, many of them, They're just doing their damn job. They've got families that they got to feed, right? So are those military guys. And you know what? They don't teach the Constitution in the military. It is not drilled into their heads. I'm telling you. I've gotten plenty of anecdotal stories of guys who learned it in their unit or had a great CO who cared about it, or but nobody's been able to show me any training that's developed and implemented and given to every single service member, DOD wide and civilian. Why? Why not? The Department of Defense does not have any type of military-wide constitutional training that's given to all of the branches consistently and evenly across the board so that everybody is educated and held to a certain standard. And this notion that you learned it in high school is frankly idiotic, because you learn fucking algebra, okay? And I bet most of you couldn't, you can't even remember how to do FOIL, okay? And that's really the only thing that I remember. First, outside, inside, last. Our military doesn't know the Constitution. Those 30,000 troops, 25, 30,000 troops in DC, they don't know the Constitution. And somebody's going, well, my boy John's over there, and I know he knows it because we love our Constitution and it's on our wall and blah, 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 blah. Fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. If the military knew it so well, why is none of the military talking, and I mean from senior leadership down? I'm not talking about those that are just the entire military. Why are they not talking about the national constitutional violations that are happening? There's nowhere in the conversation. If it's not foreign, if it's not dealing with something foreign, they don't give a shit. They don't care. And if they do, they keep it to themselves, because the senior leadership, well, guess what? They've got careers that they don't want to see ended. And so I'm going to be really surprised if we have anybody from out of the military rise up and do anything in regards to defending the Constitution against domestic enemies. I would be shocked if somebody actually stepped up out of the military and says, I'm going to defend the Constitution now against a domestic enemy. And that domestic enemy being the communists that have infiltrated every level of government, on the left, the right, the middle, and everything all the way down to the very bottom. You don't believe me? I would love for any person to tell me why, justify this for me. Why does the American Communist Party's Constitution, their preamble inside that Constitution, why does it match the progressive agenda of today? Could anybody explain this to me? Why the progressive agenda matches the American Communist Party preamble contained inside the American Communist Party Constitution? Why are prominent American communists bragging about their win in the Georgia Senate race? Could anybody explain this to me rationally so that I get it? Okay, somebody in the middle, right? People on the left and the right, you're trying to win people from the middle, trying to win independence, trying to win people over to your side. Then win me over. Somebody try and tell me why, because on the left there, how in the hell are you going to get me to come to the left when I'm telling you right now, and we can pull it up and show you right now. We'll go through it. Why does the American, and nobody's talking about this, why does the American Communist Party, here it is. Here's a preamble. You can figure this shit out for yourselves, okay? Once I read some of this. I read it a couple nights ago. But let's do it again for those of you who weren't able to join in. The Communist Party USA is of and for the U.S. working class. Our U.S. working class is multiracial and multinational. It unites men and women, young and old, gay and straight, native born and immigrant, urban and rural. We are employed and unemployed, organized and unorganized, and of all occupations. The vast majority of our society, or I'm sorry, and of all occupations, the vast majority of our society. We are a party of the African American, Mexican American, Caribbean, Central South American, Native American, Middle Eastern, Central, South, and East Asian, Pacific Islanders, and all other racially and nationally oppressed peoples, as well as women, youth, and all other working people. Did you notice anybody that was left out there? Oh, I think you could probably figure that out for yourselves. They kind of look like me. Sounds like Mike, looks like. And you know why? I'll tell you why. They've done so to equalize the force, right? To build themselves a larger opposition. And what do they view as their opposition? Conservative Christian white men. That is their predominant target. Those that they oppose the most vehemently. They oppose capitalism the most. And that's why you had people like Bernie Sanders in AOC. These are hardline socialists, and socialism is the doormat to communism. And they're both here. Socialists and communists are here, and they are being successful right in front of your very eyes, and you don't even realize it because they've weaponized your basic human psychology against you. Katie, that's an interesting remark you made there. Thanks for sharing that. That you got into an argument. Hold on. There you go. That's an interesting piece you're sharing there. So thanks for sharing that. And this isn't uncommon. Katie's a wonderful supporter of myself in the War is Hell podcast, and a mother. But she got into it with her high schooler's history teacher because the textbook made it sound like that our rights. Jesus, that my phone vibrated and it was like stupid loud. The metal was touching. Anyways, whatever. Set shit. Yeah, it is propaganda that's being pushed, and these teachers believe this. They believe this propaganda because the teachers themselves are educated inside the higher education system of our college institutions, which is where communists have very much embedded themselves, especially in the likes of Harvard, Yale, Berkeley. Jesus, Berkeley's like a hotbed, it's like bed bugs, but with communist and socialist. And that's why California has really went to shit out there. Literally, people shitting all over the streets in California. It's crazy. And something that we should be frightened of about all of this, like, I have a rapid departure from communist and fascist. Okay. And I think that most of us do. Our great grandfathers fought in World War II. And for many veterans, there's a long lineage of military service, and they're very proud of that service. And they're extremely proud of what we dub the greatest generation for having fought the way that they did, as valiantly as they did. And we recognize them today for those sacrifices to our country, while simultaneously allowing people that despise those sacrifices and despise the rights that they were protecting. This is not a new war, folks. This has been a long-standing war between ideology. Americans and the American way of life is not suited to the communist ideology, because communism has no room for differing viewpoints. Do y'all understand this? There is no room at the table for anybody with a differing viewpoint from whoever is in charge. And that's what you're getting. That's what you're demanding. Those of you on the left, and you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. I think that's how the saying goes. But that's what you're doing. You're going to get far worse than what you realize from these politicians. And they're going to continue to use your victim status to use you and abuse you and sell you up the river, much the same way that Republicans do with poor, predominantly the poor white class and the demographic which I come from, not extreme poverty, but not quite middle class either. So you got like an upper middle class. Well, I guess this would be like a lower middle, lower middle, upper power. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? We weren't doing fantastic financially, but we weren't starving to death either. So it's just extremely, it causes a lot of anxiety within myself, my family, and probably you and your own friends and family and social circles, what's transpiring in this country. And if even a voice like my own can't keep a platform and I keep getting deplatformed, even though I think that I'm pretty evenly keeled. You know what I mean? I've got a flair for the dramatic. Comes natural to me. It's part of my personality and just who I've always been. And so when people see these things out of me and they've never seen it before, they go, holy shit, Cash is losing his mind. Well, okay, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not true. I don't know. Big Mike Gilligan. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight, bud. It's good to have, at least to be able to see some of you still that are gravitating over here. And I really do appreciate it whenever y'all share to your groups and stuff, and people are able to come over and join us. And Facebook is going away. It's like MySpace. We're in it, and we should. The platforms that are deplatforming us, they've shown no loyalty to us, okay? And they use fear against us. All of our hard work that's going to get flushed down the drain, if you will. They've been able to significantly cut into my reach that I had between Twitter and Facebook. I mean, on Twitter alone, before they deplatformed me there, we were averaging 10 to 20 million impressions a month on an account. I think we had around 70,000, 75,000 followers or supporters. And I don't give a shit about the numbers, the followers or whatever. I don't really give a fuck. What I care about is the ability to reach people and to work hard to connect to people and put out a good message and develop my platforms, just by working hard and spending time doing this so that I can get out, my beliefs and to discuss with others what their belief systems look like and learn from one another. And if I can't do that and they'll keep deplatforming me, I mean, I'm really moderate. I'm sitting here wearing a shirt that's got, gun, it's like half gun, half cannabis, like, Operation 1620. I mean, come on, folks. What are they deplatforming me for? I was endorsed by Black Lives Matter. If I'm a racist, I'm terrible at it. It doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying? And if they're deplatforming people like myself, I mean, that's a scary prospect. And with all of these fact checkers and shit, who's fact checking the fact checkers? Thankfully, there's some people out there doing it, but not enough, because they are really shaping how we view our society. And so many of you you're really angry about what's going on, and you should be angry, but your anger is misplaced. They're intentionally gaslighting you into believing, for instance, we know, and there is substantial evidence that illustrates Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, AOC, all of these hardline leftists supporting violence, supporting the looting, the burning, the destruction of private property, of private businesses, the terrorizing of individuals on the streets, anybody who looked like somebody that might disagree with them, aka a white person, they would launch into their, they would encourage their bases to launch these attacks, and they remain entirely silent, or they would put out an obligatory statement about condemning the violence, whatever. And it was bullshit, right? It was, they're smiling while they're stabbing you in the back, right? That's what they're doing. And you're right that that you can't talk about conflict issues anymore in this country, because they resort to straight demonization. There's a reason for that. That's what you need to understand. Okay. They know that their politicians and their media condoned the violence from Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Now, I was endorsed by the Lake County chapter of Black Lives Matter in my gubernatorial run. I don't shy away from that, and I'm not going to. I knew the chair. I met the chair there back in 2016, guy by the name of Clyde McLemore. And, and I knew that what was transpiring in the family law courts in Lake County was probably adversely affecting the Black community there too. And so I reached out to Clyde McLemore to have this discussion with him. And from there, I built a friendship with the guy, and he does a lot of good work there in the community. He does a lot of events, and he does a lot of good things. And I lent my assistance where I could. For instance, I helped to raise money to take a lot of kids to go see Black Panther. I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And we have to be willing to step outside of our comfort zone, set judgments aside, and try. We have to fucking try. It's hard. I know you're pissed. I get it. But your anger is misplaced at these groups and these organizations. And you're allowing yourself to get caught up in the emotion of it all. And I really just want to encourage you to seek to understand why the division. Why are they gaslighting us into saying what happened at the Capitol was somehow far worse than what the left had been doing for the last 4 years of setting shit on fire all across this country? Give me a freaking break. I was at the Capitol. You can't bullshit me. I was there front lines. You can't bullshit me. I know what happened. I saw it. And I had team members, great guys out there, risking, themselves getting messed up the same way I was risking myself. Thankfully, they didn't. I'm happy that I was the only one that suffered any type of severe discomfort. But it's okay, because here's what's going to happen. It's all going to come out in the wash. Okay. It's all going to come out. It's a matter of time. There were too many people there, too many phones rolling, too much footage, and people know what transpired. They let them in on the east side, on the west side. It was a freaking war over there. And I believe that most of that was driven by people that weren't there to support Trump. I cannot definitively say who they were, at least not at this very moment. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to. There's a lot of people in the video footage we would like to identify, and we're going to need your help to do that. Because as we identify people that were there in the very front, that were a part of the antagonism that was transpiring down there, I think that the picture will become far clearer on who exactly was down there pushing the buttons that needed to be pushed. There were tactics being utilized to incite the crowd. We observed as they threw bricks and stones, lobbed them towards the tunnel on the west side. And I knew what they were doing. One of those bricks smacks one person. And now you think of how crowded these people were. I saw a brick fly through the air. Boom. Hits a dude in the side of the face. It didn't knock him out, but I know that sumbitch hurt. And here's what that does. Okay. Other people see that. It begins to incite fear and panic. And that you don't have to do a lot of it. And they showed that. And these were intentionally thrown with the purposes of not hitting any material structure, but for hitting people. And while other people would watch that, what would happen? Well, I mean, if you're the one getting hit with the brick, okay, fight or flight's going to kick in instantaneously. Adrenaline's going to go. If it doesn't knock you out or kill you, that immediate pain out of nowhere your fight or flight will kick in. You're going to have an adrenaline rush, probably going to get angry. And the people that observed what happened to you, it's going to affect them as well. And their fight or flight and the anxiety and the tension and the stress and everything just elevates. Boom. Right. And they're going to all be on edge, and everybody near them, their tension is going to go up. And it's an escalation of the emotion through physical attacks, through violent attacks. But they would do it with the purpose of trying to conceal their behavior and what they were actually doing. They weren't throwing this shit to try and knock out a window. They were doing it for the purpose of hitting somebody and hurting them really bad. Brian, so some of the footage that we showed there, that it wasn't your footage, it was somebody else's footage there, that they let those people just waltz. They waltz through there. They waltz in. I saw the cops standing right there. I mean, they go through the doors and the cops are just standing there like it's no big deal. They're walking around there with them. People are just kind of taking pictures, passively walking by. Right? It was a complete polar opposite on the other side. I mean, we were just watching footage earlier of it and breaking down some more pieces of it. And I was right there on the front lines, watching people get shot with the rubber bullets, with the pepper balls, with the whatever they got different rounds they can pack in those 40 millimeter canisters, right? It's like, I guess they're about the size of this Bluetooth speaker right here. Maybe a little bit smaller. They're not quite that girthy. But they were silver, and but they can put different types of rounds in those. They can do like a full sponge round. I think they can put rubber bullets in there. Katie says that she literally watched a video of the cops letting them in, saying, you don't have to agree with it, but you do have to respect it. Yeah, taking pictures with the cops. So we know this. And this is the exact same ploy that they've been using for years to drive this division, this same type of gaslighting bullshit that we all see. We're like, hold on a second. They just let them through the freaking doors. Why are we talking about treason? Right? Get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. None of you people, none of these politicians, right? They don't have a leg to stand on as it comes to making an argument about treason when they're the ones that have been eroding our Constitution for decades, right? The likes of a Joe Biden talking about what's constitutional is laughable. It's not laughable. It's fucking insulting, right? By him and Kamala Harris. It's downright insulting to listen to these two idiots. And the fact that so many of you will rush to defend them Not because they're good candidates, not because they've got good policies that they're pushing, but only because you hate Trump. Only because you hate republicanism, conservatism. That's it. That's your only reason for supporting them. It's not because they're good people. It's not because they're good candidates with good policy. It's only because you hate the right. And the same from the right. Now, I think personally, here's what I see. Because those that are prevailing at this juncture is the Democratic Party. And it should concern us when the American Communist Party is bragging about their win in Georgia, in the Georgia Senate race. But again, something else nobody's talking about, and I don't get it. I'm just the lonely freaking veteran out here who smokes a little weed, and what the fuck does he know? You're right. What do I know? I only read the American Communist Party's part of their preamble to you, illustrated to you, where clearly we know this. It's no secret that the left despises straight white men in this country, especially if they're like a Christian married white man. Whoo! Public enemy number one. That's what they should say. Our number one enemy is a straight white married Christian man. You're the best, dude. Thanks, hero. Appreciate you, brother. It's my buddy there. Oh man, just you walking's like shaking the whole thing. It's freaking it's funny. We need to put it on some hydraulics or something. Doesn't look too bad on your phone there. Doesn't look terrible.
It's good enough for tonight.
Yeah, it's good enough for tonight. Great question there, Nick. How does the Libertarian Party become a realistic party that can realistically compete with the R's and the D's? Well, it's kind of a loaded question here. It could be as simple as people just walking the hell away. There was that guy. What was the guy's name? Was it Brandon Strata? That he was the gay guy, Democrat, and he was the one that began the walk away campaign to the Republican Party. Yeah, but I think that people should walk away from both of them. At the end of the day, look, and I have to agree with some anarchists here. I know some people are going, "Oh my God, Cash, don't." They're like, "Don't do it. Don't agree with an anarchist." We literally do trade out one tyrant for another one, right? We just relinquish our rights to another person, and they write really terrible policy that hurts all of us. Is the anarchist wrong? Okay, I know anarchist is a dirty word out there. Jason, what's up, brother? Thanks for joining us, man. I know anarchist is a dirty word. It always has been. It's associated with your emo kids that, spray paint a fucking A on something, and, like Nancy Pelosi's house where they tape off the brick, make sure that they don't get any of the nice stuff painted, Anytime you say anarchy or anarchic, can we bring up the definition of anarchy and anarchist so we can have? I like having context. I like meaning. Words have meaning. That's why it's really important we choose appropriate words. I make a concerted effort. CJ is going to bring up anarchy for us here. And it looks really scary too. Even the symbol, right? This is like some Quentin Tarantino shit, right? When you see the anarchy A, this is V for Vendetta. This is everything that is bad. Anarchist. But as a noun, a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. A state of disorder. Okay. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. There's nothing disorderly about you deciding what's good for you and yours. Thanks, CJ, for highlighting this other piece here. The absence of government and absolute freedom of the individual regarded as a political idea or ideal. I can't quite read ideal. So absence of government and absolute freedom of the individual. That sounds atrocious, doesn't it? Absolute freedom of the individual regarded. Now, here's the thing. Your psychopaths that are anarchists think that their individual liberties and freedoms mean up to and including, like, I don't know, eating children, right? Whatever. Like, those are your fucking nut jobs, okay? Like your Hitlers of the world or your Stalins of the world, they are your nut jobs. Freedom should be maximized, or the possibility for it to be maximized. It should always be present. Not, we're in a constant state of trying to recover liberties deprived from us through what? Yeah, you know it, shitty legislation. Anarchy. Let's see here. Absence of government. I don't need government to tell me what time to get up. I don't need government to tell me what time to go to bed. I don't need government to tell me how much to eat. I don't need government to instruct me on what to eat, when to eat, where to travel, how to travel, who to associate with. None of that. I don't need government for any of that shit at all. The more things that I've dealt with out of government, the more difficult my life has been. And it's nearly unending, between having to pay taxes on everything that you own, the registrations. I mean, it's just the paperwork and the bureaucracy that chews away at what's most precious to us as human beings, and that's time. We've got very little time on this earth. And we spend our first 25, 30 years in life, absorbing all of this information from our peer groups and social circles and media, trying to decide our pathway in life. And then it's like light bulbs start coming on, especially for the working class or the poor working class. Light bulbs start coming on about how much government is screwing with their life. And what are communists wanting to do? Expand fucking government. Okay. And then you've got poor people on the left and the working left going, yeah. Okay. And then you've got Republicans, the poor working class. If I want to stereotype here, poor working class, rural, white Southerner, okay, voting Republican, cheering them on. Yeah, Republicans, small government. Republicans don't give two shits about small government, folks. They just don't. And until enough people in enough numbers flee from all of these platforms, these far left platforms, until enough people flee from these parties and strip them of their power resides on your willingness to put faith in them every time you go to fucking vote. Every time you give them $1 of your money, 1 cent to them, each time you're doing that, you're placing your faith inside that political ideology that is violating the tenets of their own platform, their own principles. They don't care about limited government. Republicans do not care about limited government. I'm sorry. As a party, they fucking don't, because they don't hold one another accountable. They don't. They're as reckless with national spending as anybody else, as any Democrat. Now, on the plus side, what I will say is that I have witnessed over the last several months more and more people speaking out publicly against both of the mainstream parties. So to that end, that's a win. That's a success. Anytime I hear more people going, it's both of them instead of just pointing at one, now we're getting somewhere. Thank you. Thank the Lord Jesus, we're getting somewhere. And maybe just because of social media and the internet, I'm hearing more of it. But I like to think that I stay pretty plugged into to opinions here in the United States. And I've personally seen, that's my I'll say it's my anecdotal life that I'm drawing upon here. But I've personally seen more and more, and maybe that has a lot to do with that, the algorithms of social media and me liking videos or posts by people that are moderate. And so I'm getting more of those, and maybe you should do the same. I don't know. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. So I still, things that I see that are more liberal or conservative, I click on them. And if it's an opinion or something that I'm like, yeah, I think that's cool, I'll like it. And so I get a mixture of all of it, left, right, and everything in between. So let's talk about right now. CJ's working on bringing some stuff up for me, and I'll wait for him to give me a go ahead. We're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. a little bit, and it might get a little controversial because I want to talk about some of the discussions, the more unsavory discussions around him and his life that we don't hear about. Now, that's not to tear this man down whatsoever. So please don't be confused about that. Any man set up so high on a pedestal is destined to fall. Anyway, I've told people, don't put me on a pedestal. I am not perfect. I screw up all the time. I say dumb shit. I do dumb shit. Please do not put me on a pedestal as some, supreme. I'm not that guy. Don't put me in that position, right? Because I'm a human being, and I'm gonna let you know, I'm just gonna let you down. It's a matter of time, okay? Because I'm a human being. So don't place all your faith into me or the words that I say, right? Be discerning about the information that you hear and read. And Jason's right here that our opinions are falling on deaf ears unless you're a billionaire. Martin Luther King Jr. was a profound individual that moved mountains in people's hearts and minds. I challenge nearly anyone, especially a person who's never heard of the man, never seen him before. And yes, there's lots of people who've never heard of him, have no idea who he is, know nothing about him. But I challenge anybody to listen to his speeches and his sermons and not be moved by those. There is power in that. And to me, that power is not dissipated based upon his flaws and the shit that, now, some of the allegations are serious, right? But I don't take anything definitively just because I read it. I consider the source. And for Martin Luther King Jr. in 2019, I believe it was 2019, might have been, I thought maybe it was sooner than that, actually. But either way, the FBI dumped some information. And in that information is, things here about Martin Luther King Jr. And in fact, I think there might even be some audio tapes in there. So we're gonna go ahead. Oh no, he's not ready. I'm sorry. I thought he was gonna play this. My bad. I read my executive producer wrong. But anyways, we don't hear the other side about Martin Luther King Jr., right? Especially those of us who went through school a long time ago, 20 some odd years ago for me. And Yeah. All right. Here we go. Now he's ready. Here we go. Oh, this Washington Mall. I've been out here a few times.
I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation.
Moral leader of our nation.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Now, if I remember right, there was 250,000 people at this one. And that looked to be about 250,000.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize the shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual.
But we're returning to business as usual. He makes a lot of valid points. I mean, based upon how blacks were treated at that time in this nation, he's right. And it's been a while, but so whenever I've done some reading here about this event and who helped to organize this event and the success of this, number one, it was a substantial amount of planning and organizing across a multitude of groups. Now, you might have seen some signs there at that protest, or there at the speech, and where they're talking about the workers. And it's pretty well documented, at least by the FBI, about the correlation or relationship of Martin Luther King Jr. with communists. And most people jump back and they're like, "Oh shit, what? I didn't know that," and I didn't either. But when you understand communism, then you understand it's not really a surprise, because communism, what makes communism attractive in who their recruitment base really is they go to those within the lowest, what I refer to as the lowest economic denominator, because typically those that are struggling the most financially are struggling the most everywhere. They have the worst healthcare, they've got the worst food, education, on and on and on. They deal with so much more, and that's why people will work hard to get up out of those circumstances, because they understand how difficult it is and how extremely challenging it is. So I've got an article here that CJ is about to pull up. We're going to go through this. It's from Stanford University. It's where my buddy Jason Spires is studying at out there. And who was the, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the What? Who's the article with?
Martin Luther King Jr. Research and Education Institute.
Okay. All right. So this is from the Martin Luther King Jr. Research and Education Institute at Stanford. Well, that sounds pretty credentialed to me. So if it's going to be fair, I would at least think that, well, Stanford would be fair to Martin Luther King Jr. So I'm going to read some of this here. And what we're searching for is the discussion about communism as it pertains to Martin Luther King Jr. In the Cold War climate of the 50s and 60s, the threat of communism galvanized public attention. In 1953, Martin Luther King called communism one of the most important issues of our day. I didn't know this. As King rose to prominence, he frequently had to defend himself against allegations of being a communist, though his view that communism and Christianity are fundamentally incompatible did not change. Although sympathetic to communism's core concern with social justice, King complained that with its cold atheism wrapped in the garments of materialism, communism provides no place for God or Christ. King first studied communism on his own while a student at Crozier Theological Seminary in 1949. In his 1958 memoir, he reported that although he rejected communism's central tenets, he was sympathetic to Marx's critique of capitalism, finding the gulf between superfluous wealth and abject poverty that existed in the U.S. morally wrong. Which is funny. Marx is a unique. So for those of you who don't know Karl Marx, number one, came from a very wealthy family. And he was a very privileged white German. And Karl Marx was able to do what Karl Marx did because of the financing of so many others. I mean, socialism and communism, number one, is born out of Karl Marx's twisted ideology. And, of course, socialists are going to label me the fascist, the racist, which is really funny because I know that there's conservatives going, I think Cash Jackson's a communist. And it makes your brain hurt having to deal with these people. King, now without going into more detail here, King was sympathetic to, as it said in the article, Marx's critique of capitalism, finding the gulf between superfluous wealth and abject poverty that exists in the U.S. morally wrong. Writing his future wife, Coretta Scott, during the first summer of their relationship, he told her that he was more socialistic in my economic theory than capitalistic, and yet I am not supposed to capitalism that I failed to see its relative merits. King began preaching on communism's challenge to Christianity in 1952, repeating sermons on the same theme throughout his career and including one as a chapter in his 63 volume of sermons, Strength to Love. Communism's presence demanded sober discussion, he preached, because communism, you want to blow it back up on this screen. I'm looking around this screen at CJ's screen because it's so big. Yeah, I should just have him enlarge it right here. All right. Communism's presence demanded sober discussion. Of course it does, because communism is the only serious rival to Christianity. King critiqued communism's ethical relativism, which allowed evil and destructive means, there you go, to justify an idealistic end. Communism, wrote King, robs man of that quality which makes him man, that is being a child of God. And he is entirely correct. Now, this next paragraph I think will be interesting because finally the FBI comes into play here. Despite King's consistent rejection of communism, in 1962, his associations with a few alleged communists prompted the FBI. So we need to look those up. With a few alleged communists. We can do that later. But it prompted the FBI to launch an investigation into his alleged links with the Communist Party. In 1976, the U.S. Senate committee reviewing the FBI's investigation of King noted, We have seen no evidence establishing that either of those advisors has attempted to exploit the civil rights movement to carry out the plans of the Communist Party. Now, this is stuff that would be interesting reading. From wiretaps initiated in 1963, the FBI fed controversial information to the White House and offered it to friendly reporters in an effort to discredit King. So Stanford, in this article, is, of course, defending King. In 1964, King told an audience in Jackson, Mississippi, he was sick and tired of people saying this movement has been infiltrated by communists. There are as many communists in this freedom movement as are Eskimos in Florida. And I have a feeling that there was probably more there than what he realized, because communists are very adept at blending in, right? Communists are much like your deep-seated, well-trained, narcissistic sociopaths. Those that seek to implement communism through malicious ends, because they don't care what cruel or unusual methods they use. The end justifies the means with which they are seeking to achieve that end utopian state. So how do you trust the FBI? Knowing what we know about the FBI and all this shit that they've done, I don't trust the FBI. Most people I know don't trust the FBI. And they've kind of done it to themselves. And this is big government for you. Police officers then will, if you were to criticize the FBI, many police will take that as an attack on all police. On the blue, you attack one, you attack all. And again, you get beat back into this same mentality of, why can't I just judge an individual and their actions? Brian's telling you to check your Telegram, by the way. Jason, I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I don't know if there's a black communist party. I don't know. Is that like a is that like a caucus? Is that an entire party? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. These are things I haven't Googled. I've never thought to search them. Not to make that sound racist, he says. In 1963, King bowed to the wishes of the Kennedy administration and fired the SCLC employee Jack Odell after the FBI alleged that he was a communist. King also agreed to cease direct communication with his friend and closest white advisor, Stanley Levison, although he eventually resumed contact with him in March of 1965. FBI surveillance and bugs tracked King's political associations and produced evidence of King's extramarital sexual activities, information that was later leaked to some reporters. As though the FBI is the bastion of morality, right? You know what? These guys are feds, much like you had the Secret Service, I think, for the Obama administration. I think it was the Obama administration down there with prostitutes in Brazil. The FBI and the feds, they're comprised of human beings that are all flawed in their own ways. Plenty of them have done extremely, disturbing things. So you don't know what to believe. That's the problem. Okay. We were all brought up to believe in these institutions, to believe in our branches of government, and the way that it worked was just a really good style of governing. And I don't think that we fully considered how detrimental the flaws were. So in 1965, King had faced some questions from journalists on Meet the Press. Now, and it was about his association with Tennessee's Highlander Folk School, which had been branded a communist training school on billboards that appeared throughout Alabama during the Selma to Montgomery March, and showed King attending a Highlander workshop. King defended the school, saying that it was not communist, and noted that great Americans such as Eleanor Roosevelt, Reinhold Niebuhr, Harry Golden, and many others had supported the school. King's position on the war against communists in northern Vietnam, like his overall position on communism, was rooted in his Christian belief in brotherhood. Indeed, in the summer of 65, the press reported King's off-the-cuff remarks to a Southern Christian Leadership Conference rally in Virginia. Quote, "We're not going to defeat communism with bombs and guns and gases. We must work this out in the framework of our democracy." And then in his 67 book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, King decried America's morbid fear of communism, arguing that it prevented people from embracing a revolutionary spirit and declaring eternal opposition to poverty, racism, and militarism. The problem with that is that that's not what communists do. And that's true. It's not. If communists were truly about racism, they wouldn't have done the shit that they've done. Communism and the spread of communism, they thrive on racism because it creates more victim groups. Communists love racism. It's doublespeak. Having racism stokes conflict. The more conflict that ensues between the working class people, the better for communism. They love it that way. They want it that way. Their ideology and the means that they will use to get to those ends, they're perfectly okay with violence and conflict and hate and discord. And everything that we're seeing in this country, communists are okay with that, as are fascists. But we don't have these far-right crazy fascists like what the left is proclaiming. I'm sorry, we are not more racist in 2020 than they were in 1963 or 65, whatever year. I think it was 63 with this one that we have pulled up. We're not more. Are you telling me we're more racist now than we were then? Bullshit, man. You see how many white people are down there in this crowd in the 60s? This is over, this is 50 fucking years ago, folks. We haven't progressed as a society, or we haven't progressed significantly. Get out of here, man. Yes, we have. As a society, we have made significant strides in race relations, but as long as we keep pumping and peddling, the race baiting in this country that we do, and what we see, and the virtue signaling, and people begin to pick up on this, right? The difference in defending a group of people and when somebody's out there really, virtue signaling to specific groups. And I'm going to virtue signal to all of you, right? And my virtue signal is that I just want some common sense reform in this country. Can we have the adults at the table for a little while? Would that be okay? Would it be all right if the kids of the left and the right sat down for a little bit and the adults were able to have a conversation and we could find some middle ground on some issues? I think that there's enough of us out there that we can make that happen. But I need your help to help make that happen. And to do so, well, it requires me to travel. It requires me to upgrade my gear. And I've got a studio I need to get moved into. I'm still here in my house. And I've got about a month and a half. And the lease on the studio that we're going into is $750 a month. And that's not including, I need a higher speed internet. And with utilities, we're talking $1,000 a month for the studio. But I think the studio that you're going to see, you're going to love it. And it's really going to pay dividends to the show and what it is that we're looking to achieve, and how we're looking to grow the Veteran Liberty Network. Not this show, not just the podcast, but the entire network. And we need the space to do that. I can't grow an entire network to the degree I would like to right here in my office. Because we want to bring on other podcasters, other shows. This is the vision and the dream that we have, is to make this something far larger than just one show. We want to incorporate liberty-minded individuals, and it might not be political. Okay, I want y'all to understand that. If you want to be a part of the Veteran Liberty Network, it doesn't necessarily have to be political. But we do want people that are very liberty oriented. You don't have to have the same views as me on marriage or abortion or some other issue, okay, we don't have to see eye to eye. I want you to understand that to be a part of this network, you don't have to regurgitate my talking points and my belief system. Okay. You don't have to, but you do have to be willing to be challenged on your thoughts, on your positions, and your beliefs, and to have an adult conversation about that. And we would like to intermingle show host from, say, from this show to other shows and vice versa, right? Where we support one another. Do you have to be a veteran to be a part of the Veteran Liberty Network? No, you do not. The Veteran Liberty Network is and will be a nonprofit veteran organization, a C-19. And thankfully, I have somebody who's willing to help us to get all of that paperwork in order. And it's all a process to get this done. And that process requires time, money, and energy. So my Patreon members are the ones who are really helping me to get this done and get this up and off the ground. I could really use some VIP patrons to help come in, and just a few people help significantly in what it is we're trying to achieve. We definitely need some better cameras and gear. I mean, we're using phones that are old, that are busted, and frankly, the end product that we would like to produce for you, we would like to be able to upgrade that equipment to do that, and to have that studio to do that. And but regardless, it's all going to come to fruition as it's intended. I believe that. And I believe that we're going down this road into media, into journalism for a purpose. Oh, Mikey. I like the box of chocolates remark. Jerry, yeah, I'm willing to do that as well. I am willing to, to partner with people for advertising and to advertise our products. That's how this system works. That's how the market works. If you've got friends, family, people that you go to church with, people that you hang out with, whatever, bring them over to the show. We can advertise our products. If they've got decent products, I'm not going to advertise crap. Okay. My biggest supporter that I've had for 6 years now, aside from my mother, has been Marina Phoenix. And her art is amazing. Okay. It's amazing. Now, she's at work right now. She's working 12-hour shifts, working her tail off. She painted these. She does watercolor. She's an amazing artist. And I've had the pleasure to sit down and watch her do this. And holy cow. We took down a bunch of the photos and stuff that we had hanging here in the house. And now her artwork adorns our walls. And I'm extremely proud, to know her and to be a part of her life and watch her grow in her own talents and skills. She's in the Air Force. And so if you want to support her, please go over and go over to her website. I'm going to have CJ bring it up one more time. MarinaPhoenixArt.com. We can just maybe throw it on a banner there for you. And tell her that I sent you. What do I get? A kiss on the cheek. That's what I get. I get a tremendous amount of joy out of seeing somebody that I love and I care about succeed in their dream. And that's truly what the Veteran Liberty Network, when you get down to it, that's what we're really about. We're about building up one another, networking with one another, and finding other more like-minded men and women to be a part of this conversation to help bring our country forward in a good way. So I need more of you. I need more people who are willing to just set differences aside and find common ground. So CJ's wanting to add some of my, I'm afraid now, my TikTok on here. Yeah. Now, remember, if you do one with music, right, they're going to kick this whole thing off. So you got to, maybe this is going to be the nightcap here.
Just let them know where to go.
CJ wanted me to let you know about, go over and follow us here on Ward's Hell Podcast, right? The growth has been exponential over there. It is not paid. That's 1,000,000% organic. Those 87,000 likes, 16.7 thousand followers. That's all organic. And that's been done over the course of just several weeks. What's important about TikTok, and why do I think you should be involved on that platform? Well, one, if it is owned by the Chinese, if it is owned by the communists, then Jesus Christ, if I hit this thing one more time. If it is owned by the communists, then that makes that the front line in the war for the internet. Right? And thankfully, Mr. Abernathy runs what?
So, internet war.
Internet warlords.
The war for the internet.
War for the internet. And TikTok would be that war. And so we're looking to, and we're working on developing a style of what we call grunge journalism. And it constitutes several different faucets. And in this faucet here, the way that I'm utilizing this podcast, or the TikTok platform rather, the Ward's Hell Podcast is utilizing the TikTok platform to begin to incorporate drama and art and theater and more creativity into relaying messages. And some of these TikToks will have more politically complex ideas behind them than others. Some of them, it's a storyline, right? If you were to go back and follow from the beginning, it begins to take shape as you see kind of the transition of the individual or individuals, as it were, in their respective stories. So maybe I can get CJ to play. I know we've got one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think we could definitely.
Hold on, yeah. All right. So like 30 seconds. Now this is my home, right? This is my life right here. What I'm getting ready to share with you. Probably can't play more than what, 15, 20 seconds. Yeah, you just mute it.
And
Mute it.
No, it's muted to them.
You gotta mute the music.
No, it's muted to them.
Yeah, there it goes. Now it's muted for me. Yeah, we can't. You can't really play that long. Ducks in my bathtub. Yeah, I've got runner ducks in my bathtub right now.
You never
No,
know. what
not
you're
that.
gonna
Not
get.
that one.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Not that one.
I'm just saying, you never know.
You never know what you're gonna get.
You
So you
never
guys,
know.
oh yeah, don't even play on it. Like just go over there, and that's all real, right?
That's just a preview.
That's just a preview. Go over and watch it for yourselves. Let me know what you think. Give me some constructive feedback. Don't be a dick bag about it, right? If you're going to be constructive, just be constructive, okay? And keep in mind, we're all learning. We're at different stages of learning. And so the criticism that you heap on other people for what they're doing or how they're doing it, maybe it's best reserved till you yourself have become an expert in whatever it is that you're tearing them apart for. Yeah, I know we're all trying to avoid adding another social media platform, but I think what we have to accept in this society is that, one, because it's a free market, we're going to see a lot more social media platforms come to fruition because the censorship, and you're already seeing it, it's going to drive innovation. People are going to fight back. They're going to push back against these multi-billion-dollar social media corporations like Twitter and Facebook. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get to where we're not censored to the degree that we are. Yeah. Some of the masks are creepy. They are. Yeah. Some of them are creepy. There's different, we're just doing some different things. And we want to know what your thoughts. So we're out of here, man. We're gonna jump off for the evening. Thanks for tuning in to the War is Hell podcast or broadcast. Here it says in broadcast, but we call it the podcast. We could call it the podcast, the podcast broadcast. There we go.
We'll figure it out.
We're getting out of here. Y'all have a wonderful Monday night, and please make sure that you sign up for those notifications and send it over to others. Have them sign up for notifications as well. Share it, like it. You know the drill, man. Just help us out. We're the working men and women of this country. We need your help every single day, and we can't do it without you. So, love you. Have a wonderful night. We're out of here.